people in Harlem call them the ghosty men, because you hardly ever saw them. After a while, they just never come out. The children in the neighborhood said the house was haunted. People said the Collyer brothers had $1 million in cash in there hidden away. Why, people said there were dead bodies, coffins in the basement, a Model T car in the parlor, and a canoe in the attic. Oh, me? I'm just an old neighbor lady. My name is Miss Miriam.
I am Homer Collyer. My brother, Langley. We moved here to Harlem with our parents in 1909.
It took 10 vans to move our furniture. Since Mother died in 1929, we have lived here alone.
I went completely blind in 1934, brought on no doubt by diabetes, and then became crippled with rheumatism and have not moved from this spot in some years. All this time, Langley has been my caretaker, my nurse, my companion all this time.
We've had no need for other company.
It took them hours to get into that house that day, March 21st, 1947. They had to chop through the roof finally because the doors and windows were blocked with furniture, newspapers, pianos, and Lord knows what else. And once they got in, it took hours more to find poor Mr. Homer.
It's without Langley to take care of me, to feed me, see to my needs. Now, the particulars I will leave to your imagination. Suffice it to say, it will not be a good death.
It was quite an event when the Collyer brothers were found dead. Hundreds and thousands of people stood outside of that house on 5th Avenue, just watching as the police hauled out all that stuff. The newspapers were there every day taking pictures, and the newsreel and the radio people, a ballyhoo they called it. Most excitement in Harlem since the riots. Why, I just can't imagine what it must have been like. Poor Mr. Langley crushed to death underneath all that junk, and Mr. Homer just sitting there waiting, helpless, starving to death. Everybody wonders why. What happened? What happened in that house?
What happened indeed? Well, we'll see.
As for me, the authorities will spend the next 19 days searching for me. People will claim to have seen me on a Brooklyn subway train.
Eating frozen custard in Newark, New Jersey?
Hitchhiking in North Carolina.
Trout fishing in the Adirondacks.
But I will have been here the entire time.
Less than 10 feet from me.
And to this day, nobody knows who placed that call to the police.
Father wants us to move.
Yes, so I've heard.
And to Harlem.
What about his practice?
He's interviewing at the city hospital. He'll doubtless have a residency. We'll be well set.
Well set, indeed. Herman bought a place at 2078 5th Avenue.
Years later, Homer bought the house across the street, 2077, as an investment.
They say he intended to move in there with Iris Mortimer after he became a minister.
And over the years, they filled that house with tons and tons
I
of
constructed ingenious tunnels that only I knew.
booby traps and alarms in case of intruders.
A number of us cousins.
Some related by birth, like Jane.
And others through marriage into the family, like this one. May I continue?
Please do.
Thank you. A number of us cousins came round when the news broke about the boys being found dead.
It was such a tragedy. Those poor men.
Off your tragic high horse. You were just as curious as the rest of the mob.
Beg your pardon.
4 days after poor Homer was lowered out the parlor window in a canvas bag, the streets were mobbed with people, all hoping to get a glimpse of what was inside that house.
And maybe their piece of the pie.
I never.
Still, it was fascinating.
Yes, it was. I remember standing there on the street one day. Was it March when they found Homer dead?
Yes, March 21st.
That's right. And there was a light rain, and I remember watching the endless parade of sanitation workers carting out all this debris, and I turned to Edna, and I said...
She was terrible. She turned to me and she said, I wonder what they did at Christmas. Did they buy each other gifts, or did they just find something in the rubble, wrap it up, and give it to each other?
There would have been more than enough for Christmas every day.
We still had Homer's entire law library and Father's medical library.
Thousands of books.
Susie's hope chest and some of her unfinished knitting.
14 pianos.
Plaster statues and parts of a Model T.
To generate electricity for the house.
Oh, a program from the Metropolitan Opera.
Cosi fan tutti.
A 10-foot mahogany hall mirror with a pink marble shelf.
3 revolvers.
2 rifles.
A shotgun.
A clavichord.
2 pipe organs.
5 violins.
Including a Bulgari Cremona, 1762.
Apollo Magia Priscia, 1784.
And a cello, wrapped in cloth, labeled Stradivarius, 1727.
All fake. The marble bust of a man.
A trombone.
A coronet.
A wooden crib.
Containing 2 human skulls, a spine, and a rib cage.
Tons of newspapers.
13 Victorian mantel clocks.
Tons of magazines.
A Davis and Kidder magneto for nervous disorders.
Parts of a Surrey.
Beaded lampshade.
Boxes, barrels, crates.
A dozen gas chandeliers.
Several human medical specimens,
The jawbone of a horse.
including a 2-headed baby in formaldehyde.
A bicycle.
Father's Gladstone, with all his instruments intact.
A half-dozen tickets to the Trinity Sunday School excursion, July 8th, 1903.
And a letter from Langley to a girl,
A letter.
which they found on the pink marble shelf, the mahogany hall mirror, unopened, where Mother and Father's visitors would leave their cards.
Some of the stuff wound up at Hubert's Museum near Times Square, including what they called Homer's death chair. Did the 2-headed baby wind up at Hubert's as well?
Oh, no. No one knows what became of the 2-headed baby.